On the hunt for comfortable, timeless Western boots? You already know the best place to shop for quality boots is at your local Tacova store. So stop by Tacovas Nashville at the Mall at Green Hills or on Broadway by Ryman Auditorium. That's right, you now have 2 locations to choose from. Grab a cold one as you shop and get fitted by a pro. Tacovas Nashville is at your service, and you can find your perfectly fitted dream boots with the help of their expert staff. Everyone will be asking where you got your sick new boots, but I won't be asking because I know they must be Tacovas. That's TECOVAS.com. Don't go gently, y'all. Hey, Nashville. Welcome to the first episode of CityCast Nashville, presented by our exclusive launch sponsor, Tacovas. You may be wondering who I am. I'm your host, Grace Fuse, and the Tennessee critter I am most afraid of is brown recluse spiders. But I like to think brown recluse spiders are most afraid of me and the giant book of fonts that I drop on them. Today on CityCast Nashville, our executive producer, Whitney, decided it would be such a good idea for me to interview the mayor as my first interview on my 4th day on the job. That's right, we have Freddie on. The Mayor Freddie. Freddie O'Connell, the former council member for District 19, who we elected as the 10th mayor of Nashville last fall, is here to kick things off with us. We talk gymnastics, we talk transit, and we talk connecting with community, which is what this podcast is all about. It's June 11th, 2024. I'm Grace Fuse, and this is what Nashville's talking about. All right, Mayor O'Connell, how's it going?
I made it to another Friday, so I'm doing okay.
Excellent. Can I call you Freddie?
You can.
Thank you, sir. We're so glad you're here as our first guest, and we've got plenty to talk about in terms of Nashville and your vision for where we're headed. So let's start with something really hard-hitting. If you could do any gymnastics move, what would it be?
I can already somersault. What are you talking about?
But that's your highest ambition is somersault?
No, I really have always been impressed by people who can, just from standing, do a flip. If I could walk out the steps of City Hall today into the sunshine and just freaking do a flip right there, I think that would be really awesome.
It'd be super Willy Wonka of you. Although that's a somersault, so never mind.
Yeah, that I can do the Willy Wonka thing, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, you could already do that. So, Freddie, we here at CityCast are trying to help people feel more connected with their city. What would you say is the biggest thing anyone can do right now to be more connected to their neighbors?
This one is such an interesting question because to be more connected to your neighbors, you know your neighbors, right? And I've thought about this before for decades now of living in the same neighborhood. Is it was really important to me to know the people who literally live next door and across the street. We're very fortunate that years later, we still have cell phone numbers for so many of the people on our block and can just walk across the street for people we don't have numbers for. I know this is hard because it's also, if you don't already know your neighbors, right? If you are either new to the neighborhood or have lived there long enough to still have that awkward, I should know this person by now and see them occasionally on the porch or on the stoop or on the sidewalk and don't even know their names yet. There's a little bit of a courage to it. And this advice is not going to help introverts.
I want to say I'm very thankful in my neighborhood. When I first moved in, people would just stop me while I was walking my dog and be like, you just moved into that house down the street.
It's worth knowing the people that you're spending some significant part of your life living physically close to.
You get things out of it. Mine gave me some advice for mowing my lawn when I was struggling. Things happen. He was watching me from the stoop as it turned on and off over and over again.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that story.
Yeah, he just told me to make it higher instead of cutting my grass too short, Anyway, It was great advice.
Pro tips.
Yeah. All right. Your biggest focus right now is on the transit referendum, which will appear on the ballot November 5th for our vote. Give us the hard sell on that. And why should we care, even if we don't take the bus?
We've tried to design a comprehensive transportation improvement program, and that's why people should care. The program has enough elements in it that there really should be something in it for everybody. It's going to put 86 more miles of sidewalk into the city. That doesn't necessarily mean a sidewalk on every single city block in the city, but it will mean much more connected communities. It will make more of our intersections safer and make our streets overall safer, which means not just that we lose fewer pedestrians to fatal car crashes, but in fact that motorists are also safer moving around the city as traffic flows. And certainly we have people who don't drive because they can't, whether because of age or ability. having a 24/7, 365 transit service, which we do not have right now, is a big, big deal for a top 25 American city. And so I think take all of those ingredients together. And even if you don't see the impact of this passing when you walk out your front door, as you try to go somewhere beyond your front door, that's more than a quarter of a mile, you are very, very likely to see a positive impact of this program. And so we think that it's something that voters will respond favorably to, but it's going to take tens of thousands of conversations like this one to just make sure that people are even aware of it and why we think it's the best path forward for the city. And I'll say this will be the fastest way that we lower the cost of living in Nashville. And so it's a huge, huge part of the conversation.
That's really exciting.
I think so.
Absolutely it is. But the real question is, if you had to choose one method of transportation for the rest of your life, would it be walking, biking, or taking the bus?
I still feel like on a day like today where the sun is shining and I can walk out the door of my house into a walkable neighborhood, I can walk out the door of my office to a great public square in a downtown that's easily walkable. If I knew I were living in a context where everything within reach was walking, that's what I would do.
Cool. Your administration inherited quite a few frustrating issues from your predecessor. Assuming you...
Yes, we're not going to talk about any of those.
Oh, no?
I'm just kidding. No, I'm going to agree with you, but I agree.
Agreed. Assuming you can't wave a magic wand and fix everything, what are you learning about the way this government you inherited actually works? And what are the forces at play that surprised you?
I think the hardest part is you don't get to assume continuity, even if you know in advance. I knew somewhat of the challenges confronting, for instance, the Metro Arts Commission. What you can't necessarily anticipate is that you're going to face a wave of resignations of people that have been involved in why it became frustrating in the first place. The process of building trust often does not happen as quickly as the circumstances demand that you be able to make some progress. The process of a safe landing for the Civilian Review Board after partial state preemption is another example of that. We had to make sure that we had people in seats ready to serve and that they could quickly hire an executive director. Being able to maintain that community-based access to trust is just, it's a real challenge. I don't have the personal capacity to engage in the number of conversations that people are eager and even sometimes I think desperate to have every day. And that's just a real fundamental challenge of the office.
Hey, y'all, executive producer Whitney Pasterek here with just a little context for listeners about our next question. So we did this interview with Freddie the day after a former Metro Nashville Police Department lieutenant released a formal complaint against the department, including the accusation that high-ranking MNPD officials actually worked with Republican state legislators to dismantle our community oversight board. You know, the one we all voted for. So Freddie has called for an independent investigation, and I'm sure by the time you're listening to this, a lot more will have happened. Okay? Back to Grace.
So in response to the complaint about MNPD being involved in dismantling the community oversight board, what do you plan to do to rebuild trust on that front?
So I guess I would start with the very first thing we did as an administration was ensure that the Civilian Review Board continues. We have not tried to tamper with it at all. In fact, we have tried to reinforce it. And I think one of the most frustrating things about the timing of the release of these allegations is that same meeting, we actually had a draft of a memorandum of understanding between the Metro Nashville Police Department and the Civilian Review Board. That was one of our key trust building exercises after keeping the CRB stood up, and it got just completely overshadowed by this document of a complaint. And so now my hope is that our emphasis on an independent investigation of the allegations in that document and that complaint will at least partially help with trust building, at least maybe not further erosion of trust in some of the institutions we rely on. But, you know, we also have to be mindful every day of how you maintain trust in institutions where there may be an unpopular moment, an unpopular decision, an unpopular outcome, but the institution has to persist. And that's again, it's like this is linked to things that I've learned along the way.
Please grade yourself as a mayor and explain your answer. And Whitney wants you to also grade the people of Nashville and explain your answer, but I might veto that. So you do what you will with that.
I mean, this is the toughest exercise because my opinion of myself kind of matters the least. I would give myself a B plus because I think we have achieved a lot in 8 months. We have also endured a number of incredibly challenging circumstances that have ranged from severe weather to community-based violence that has been really challenging. We have ranged from conspiracy theories to the kind of civic dumpster fires that you referenced. And I think if I look at where we could have been in a perfect world, I do think there are some things that, I might have prioritized. We tried for a long time to get communications capacity built. And I will say I'm part of the problem here because I'm very picky about the process of talking about ideas that impact people's lives. And so I'm really proud of when we got to the state of Metro and I got to think about what we had done sort of in year one at that midpoint, having worked on a capital spending plan, having produced a transportation improvement program, having gotten a development agreement for the East Bank, having prepared our first operating budget. There are a lot of great things that have happened. And I've already talked to Whitney a little bit about the difficulty of kind of punching the positive stories through the instincts around headlines that I think research shows tend to gravitate toward the negative. And so
this is why I want you to grade us, Freddie. Hi, it's me, Whitney, your executive producer. I want to know how the people of Nashville are doing living up to your expectations.
I mean, so here's what I'll say. I think that's a B plus scenario too. I think the hardest part about Nashville is that it has grown and changed. And I think one of the things that I maybe have been most surprised by is, so it's so interesting. We saw two things happen almost simultaneously. On the one hand, it was such an amazing, I felt like a sense of relief when the Vanderbilt poll came out and suggested that a majority of Nashvillians feel like we've actually gotten back on the right track, right? And this was intentional on our part. We wanted to make sure that our overall public investment strategy was anchored back in the idea of being a Nashvillian. And yet, you can still see in the attitudes around, for instance, the Metro Council's Nest proposals that there's still a lot of discomfort around the idea of growth. I think there's still some work to be done to have those conversations at a community level that maybe COVID really did legitimately make more difficult. I've heard more people than I expected in the past couple of years to say some version of, I've forgotten how to interact with people. I think about that a lot too, is how can I as mayor continue to foster spaces and activities that really bring us together as a city as often as possible. And we have some success with that, but watching the kind of anger that people are bringing to public meetings suggests that we've still got a lot of pent-up tension. Some of it, absolutely legitimate, but we've just got to continue being sensitive to and attentive to that. I just want to congratulate Whitney on her B+. Way to go, Whitney.
Listen,
I think she was hoping for a higher grade, so I think you might have ruined her day.
I'm kind of bummed. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a B+ is solid and respectable, but leaves room for growth, which is what it's all about. All right, Freddie, it's time to lighten up. What is the scariest critter in Nashville/Tennessee?
I can't stand ticks. It's the least favorite part of my venturing off the beaten path, is knowing that at the end of it, I'm going to have to do a tick check. I don't love that.
Yeah.
Don't love ticks.
Moving on. The Belcourt is currently running a festival of films from 1999 this month, and you've been a vocal supporter. What's your favorite movie from that year and why?
Fight Club is easily at the top of the heap there, with honorable mention for Ghost Dog and The Matrix. And there are several that I haven't seen, so I'm excited to see Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I bizarrely never seen Election, which, I don't know how that happened. So I've got some playing catch up to do while the Belcourt is screening, and I'm going to have to hunt for, a couple of hours to go pick up some new opportunities here.
Hell yeah. I love the Belcourt. What is your favorite under the radar spot in Nashville?
I mean, I think Dark Matter is awesome. I guess I hope I'm pleasantly surprised about their pivot to being a nonprofit. I think my hope is that this is a sign of future aspiration and persistence because it's a venue I would not want to lose. Going back there for a Lucy's record shop reunion was just kind of an amazing walk back in time. Was funny because, like, one of our daughter's friends' dads was there, and we were just kind of having this casual conversation, about kind of dad life, and then reflecting on going to Lucy's, and then like another band started up, and he was right up front thrashing. He's like, "Hey, pardon me, I'll be right back. I got to go rock out." And it was just like, okay, this is amazing. I don't really want to, cause a flood of people to go there, but Dee's Country Cocktail Lounge in Madison is, I think now maybe my favorite place to just go grab a beer and listen to live music. And it's a great place to just go be with friends and enjoy live music in Nashville without it seeming even close to overwhelming.
We can bleep that so you can gatekeep. Okay. What's your current favorite Nashville band?
I'm going to still claim Lamb Chop as a Nashville band. They don't do a lot of local shows, but I got to see them at Dark Matter on my birthday a couple of years ago, and it was amazing. And then if you need somebody who's performing more locally, I have become very fond of 6-1 Tribe, and they've got 615 Day coming up in just a couple weeks.
Cool.
So, yeah.
What's your favorite hot chicken spot?
Okay, this is an interesting question because having fallen in love with a vegetarian years ago, I became vegetarian myself over a period of years. And so I wind up looking at the veggie options that are out there. Years ago, Green's Cafe at Vanderbilt created an amazing hot tofu sandwich, but more recently, Southern V on Buchanan Street has gotten into the game of hot chicken. Veggielicious does some stuff. There are a remarkable number of vegetarian hot chicken offerings out there in Nashville, and I'm very, very glad to know that.
Just as we're closing up here, do you have any advice for us at CityCast while we begin our journey?
I think the hardest part is to find, it's not just stories that aren't being told, but it's the ones that matter. Right? Here's an example. We got asked by a reporter today because I had talked about some of the amazing free things that are family oriented and fun happening this weekend. And she was like, why don't more people know about these things? It's like, well, we should talk about these things, right? There's amazing stuff happening out there. I mean, I could probably spend an entire episode just talking to Whitney about the identity of Music City, and it'd probably be an okay episode,
We'll have you back as many times as you'll be here, Freddie. Thank you so much.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye!